If you'd like to sponsor Still Got Game, give us a call at 773-527-2961 or fire us off an email at podcast@tooltoplay.com. Hey now, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Still Got Game, episode 6. Still Got Game is the official podcast of tooltoplay.com. I am, as always, Derek D. Smooth Nolan.
And I am Joel Dude I Rock Albert.
What is going on, Joel Dude I Rock Albert, my friend?
Not much. World of Gaming is standing still, continuing to do so. Whole lot of nothing happening.
Waiting for November.
Waiting for November, yeah. Doing a show anyway, because we have nothing. This is all we know. But that's about it. Working every day. Gotta pay the bills.
That's how you get paid.
That's how you make money. It turns out. It took me a while to figure that part out, but I've now come to this. Really now I've come to this understanding that if you provide services, people will pay you for those services.
So. Yes, it's ironic how that works. That's why they call it a job.
That's why they call them hookers, I think is what I'm. Yeah.
Oh, that's more like it. Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, before we get into the meat of the show, I want to remind everybody again, we're still looking for an intro for the show, and we've had some people express interest in maybe providing us something, including our own Tiffany Electrified Nolan. Some of the Forza guys have pointed me to other Forza guys that might be interested in doing up a intro, but what we're looking for is something around 30 seconds. Doesn't have to be video unless you really are fucking over the top and want to do that. But we really just want something that says, hey, tooltoplay.com presents Still Got Game featuring Derek D. Smooth Nolan and Joel Dude I Rock Albert. It doesn't even have to have our names. As long as it's Tool to Play presents Still Got Game and has some music or something behind it, so it's not just you talking in a deep voice, because we can all do that. Right, Jag?
Goddamn straight, Derek Nolan.
See? It's that easy.
It's that simple.
It's really putting the whole big picture together is where you come in.
Right.
And if you do that, we'll give you some sort of prize. All right. We'll hop over into feedback from last week's show. Remember, if you leave us a voicemail, it will cut you off after a minute. Juliet comments. Great show last week. The way you guys handled the death of Ryan Davis was full of respect and professional courtesy. Extra kudos for dedicating the show to him. You two are all class. Keep up the greatness. I know we weren't the only people that did something.
Oh, of course not.
Spent some portion of our show last week to talk about Ryan Davis, but it was it's being so young and someone that it's not like, no offense, Jim Sterling, but it's not someone that's universally hated like Jim Sterling. Like Ryan Davis is pretty much the anti Jim Sterling,
right? Yeah,
and to have that sort of just complete catastrophe in the gaming world, someone so young, it makes everybody question their own mortality, and it was only right for us to spend at least a few minutes of the show on that. And because I felt like we didn't give enough of the show to him, which is why we ended up dedicating the show to him. So yeah, the episode title last week makes absolutely no sense if you're not
you're not listening till the very end
and the news and the internets. But once you heard the episode, it made more sense.
Yeah.
So thank you, Juliet. Also, Tom comments. In response to your answers to Altius's Phase 2 question last week, I think you guys were dead on. This is the time for Microsoft to nail some of these things out and hold off on announcing them until closer to launch. This was the question that Altius gave us last week that said, what are Microsoft and Sony going to do in the meantime for their Phase 2 features, like little value adds now that they know what the other guy is doing. And we kind of speculated on some of those and what could be done and what couldn't. And I think that it's going to be a while before we see anything come out of there. But at least now everybody has full knowledge of, at least when we put the line in the sand at the beginning of June, they knew what each other were doing. And after that, it's anybody's game before November.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what finally comes down the pipeline. And I think Microsoft has proven that they're in that sort of wait and see scenario. I don't think we got to talk about it, but there was an interview later on, I think it was on IGN, after we did the show, where and I can't remember who it was from Microsoft, but essentially saying that they were aware that they had done wrong, and they are absolutely not done with this digital side of things. I don't know if you read this. This was
no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, this is I want to say on Friday or Thursday this came out, but essentially saying that they worded it incorrectly by saying that the family plan's gone forever and all these things are gone forever. They simply said that it was an engineering thing, right? Because they have a certain finite amount of time before they're going to get to launch. And what ended up happening was because they made this switch to disc only, well, now there's a lot of engineering that has to go into allowing this to happen because it wasn't a part of the package. People forget that. It was not.
They had to come up with after that.
Right. So they had to go. I know it does sound crazy, but it's like, they planned on this one way of doing distribution. That way was no longer the case because of, the criticism. And so they said, look, we had to scrap these things because we weren't even ready for the things that we announced. The family sharing, that stuff wasn't ready. We thought we had time before launch to get that shit in order. So he's basically saying, which is very good news. Everyone should be really happy that that they apologize, which is good. I'm glad they finally came out and said that. That's good PR.
Yeah.
And that they are aware that they made horrible decisions in terms of talking with the community and explaining themselves. I think that's very big of them as well. And then finally, that none of this stuff is off the table. And I think that should make everyone, wallets perk up, I guess, because
Oh yeah.
If you were into family planning and that's something that you were looking forward to, then it's more than a possibility that you'll see it again in the future. So yeah, good comment, good stuff.
Yeah, most definitely. And last but not least, review comments. I just recently discovered the show and have been nothing but pleased. The hosts are funny and full of great information. Please tell them how much I enjoyed the last episode.
Are you going to tell them?
Jay,
Yeah.
Someone really enjoyed us last episode, and his or her name was Review with a 3 instead of an E.
Hey, Derek. I heard about this Review 3 guy. Really dug the show.
Oh, yes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 From me to you.
So, yeah, obviously our contact stuff comes right to us. So you can talk directly to us, and it's not through a third party. We're not that huge yet. We don't need someone filtering our first layer and acting as our firewall to your comments. We take
Right.
them all like a fire hose of piss and glory, depending on which you provide. In this case, the glory was nice, and it felt good.
True facts.
Made me warm and fuzzy.
Piss usually does, too, but that's a wholly different reason. So.
Oh, that's true, too. Yes. All right, if any of you have feedback, give us a call at 773-527-2961 or fire us off an email at podcast@tooltoplay.com. And quickly in site-related news, right now we're trying to increase the viewership of our live show here on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/tooltoplay. We have plenty of listeners to the podcast. We have plenty of people that view the show on YouTube after the fact. But building up an audience here is something that we would like to have a live audience. So eventually we can look down and be like, oh, right there's a question from, so-and-so. And we can kind of work that into the live show instead of having to have this huge outline that we work from every time. So as part of trying to entice people, made a couple short announcements today that, right now we're going to be giving away a code for, it's a Steam code for Torchlight 2. If you don't already have it, it's a great game, and you should think about definitely picking it up if you don't win. But this is going to be a nice, easy contest. I to try to increase the listenership even more tonight, I said, you know what? This is not even going to be gaming related. This is a simple listen to a song and say what TV show it's from. And I will even tell you the channel that the TV show is on.
You're just giving it away.
Yeah, I am, because I just want to give this code away, and I want someone to get this right. The first person on twitch.tv/tooltoplay that types the correct answer in chat will get this code, and after the show, once we're done broadcasting, we'll hook up. I'll get your contact information. I'll get you off a Steam code for Torchlight 2. But here is a little snippet of the song from a television show that has been on Cinemax for probably the last 6 or 7 years. And it's going to be a brief snippet, so listen carefully.
What the hell does she care?
And that's all you get.
That's all we get.
Yep, that's it. So
like it.
if you know it, type it in chat. If not, you lose. But and this contest will go through the end of the show. If it takes you a little bit to think about, if you were secretly recording that, and now you're going to fucking try to put it through. It probably won't even be in Shazam or any of those things, but you could try. And if you know it, we will give you a code for Torchlight 2.
That's pretty fair. That's a good deal. If you go through the effort of actually recording this and putting it through that too, you deserve the code.
That's true.
You've got a lot of time in your hands.
So, like I said, you have till the end of the show. Let us know what show it's from, and you will get a code for Torchlight 2. And as we move on each week, we're going to try to give away something. The contest will become more and more gaming related as time moves on. and we'll go from there. And hopefully, we'll get bigger and better prizes, and the more people listen. All right. On that, why don't we hop over into what we're playing? Joel, Dude I Rock Albert, what have you been playing this week?
This week I actually went down and downloaded the free-to-play MMO FPS Firefall. So Firefall is now in an open beta state. They're doing, I think, basically what Neverwinter did, which is it's open beta, but they're not wiping anything. So it's essentially the release. I don't know why companies are doing this now, but it's their way of saying it's beta and you can pay money and like you can do all the stuff, but if it fucks up, it's not our fault because it's technically not
if we have
released.
To wipe it, we're gonna try not to wipe anything, but if we have to, we will.
So it's in actually pretty decent state. It's a little laggy at times. The gameplay is really fun. It's a shooter, obviously. It's a third-person shooter, but it's still an MMO. And it's open world kind of a deal. You can go around. They have these things, I think they're called tornadoes, which are essentially like PvE pieces of content where you and a group of players can go in a third-person shooter type of deal and take down bosses. And they have, believe it or not, they've got like the tanking role. It's tank-ish. They've got the healing role that's healing-ish. And then, of course, the DPS role, which is DPS. And so it works.
So everybody, basically what you're saying is everybody can DPS, but you could also play one of those other roles.
Yeah, like you could absorb more damage than the person that isn't, or you could heal the person better that's next to you if they don't have the healing. So it's kind of taking that Holy Trinity thing in a different way because it's a shooter. But it's got a pretty good PvP system. They're really trying to work in their esport. That's a big component of the game, so a lot of it's built around doing the PvP and making it a shooter that's fun and competitive and stuff like that. It's very early stages for me, but I figured I'd check it out during the weekend and played a couple hours of it. It's pretty good. Can't complain. What about you? What are you playing?
Very nice. Well, I played a shitload of stuff this week.
Really?
Oh yeah. I don't even understand how this happened. This is like I almost went into the second line in the outline here, but I played 2 nights of Borderlands 2. Picked up where we left off in the ultimate vault hunt or whatever the second level is once you max out and you're like, oh, I'll start over and do it all over again. So I've been playing through that with Tiff and my buddy Mr. GBMS. That's pretty fun. We haven't even touched the DLC that we have already pre-bought, like that fucking every DLC pack for Borderlands 2. It's just kind of easing back into it, getting used to the controls and not the Halo controls. So that was good. I played probably 2, 3, 4 hours of League of Legends, which was nice. Yeah, it's good shit. Also, along the same lines, I played some Infinite Crisis. It was a beta weekend of that last weekend. That is what I talked about last week, the DC Superheroes MOBA. So
right.
That's
yeah.
Another awesome game. Good times with that. And then I played 2 free-to-play games on the Xbox 360. I played a bunch of Ascend Hand of Cool, which used to be called Ascend New Gods. That is super fun, great little game. Kind of a mix of a RPG and an action RPG and beat 'em up and leveling and loot and this and that. And if you don't want to spend any money, you don't have to. It's definitely free to play. It's just and because you're not directly competing with someone else, it's not pay to win, which is nice. And then I also played some of the World of Tanks 360 beta, and that was sobering.
So in what was it?
Really fucking hard to drive a tank.
Is it harder? Because I played the PC version, and I literally had to like get a calculator and like I was checking wind and shit. I had to call my Asian friends to do some math for me. It was not fucking easy. So is it? I mean, they said they dumbed it down. Is it better?
No, it's definitely dumbed down. Everything moves faster. The problem is it's wrapping your head coming off of like if you play shooter games like especially Halo and you're driving the Scorpion, the way that tank drives is entirely different than a real tank. So the real tank, you have to pay attention to which way the tank is facing and which way your turret is facing. And it's not like the Scorpion where like if I wing my turret over here, eventually the tank is going to come around and crack. No, I can just drive this way and aim this way. I can drive this way and it's absurd. And that was the part that was one of the 2 parts that was the hardest for me. That getting just used to the movement versus where my turret was facing, and the other was leading tanks that are in motion, which it's really easy to shoot a tank that's standing still. It's really hard to lead a tank that's in motion. So you take your first shot and learn whether just how far ahead or behind him you are based on how much you led him, and then try to adapt to that. But it was it's definitely fun. It just I didn't feel like I was massively skilled, which is kind of a turnoff. But I know everybody there is playing, and it's beta, and people are just getting the handle on things. There's definitely some issues. The menu system still is very hokey. Like when it says press A to continue, sometimes you have to press A 2 or 3 times to continue, which you would think that's the easy part of like writing software is if button press equals A, then do this.
Do this
It's
action.
Like, did I? Oh, maybe meant. Let's have him do it again if he really means to press A. All right, he pressed it twice, but maybe it was an accidental double tap. Okay, third time he pressed A. Okay, let's move on. So, it was fun. It was definitely a learning experience, but it's good. And hopefully once this hits for everybody, I'm not sure when that actually launches, but it's going to be good. And I have a feeling that people are going to come in droves to it because it is free. And people have heard about it on the PC. It's got, what we learned, like 800 billion people playing.
It's like 42 trillion people, though. It's the first time we've made contact with aliens in outer space. And the reason we know is because they're playing the game. This is the only reason we know. That's how many people play. Other terrestrial beings play this game. There's so many people.
Yeah. They needed to up their numbers, and they ran out of citizens of the world.
Right,
so
exactly.
They had to upgrade to
no one in North America plays, right? But people in other planets play the shit out of this game. Who's playing this game?
We can't understand it here in the U.S. They're like, oh, gee, I can't understand a tank. What's going on?
They're like, it's like soccer is your football. It's very confusing. Makes sense.
So they brought in some aliens. They're like,
Yeah.
Bop, and they're like, fucking blowing up tanks left and right. All right, on that, why don't we hop over to the new releases? And this week, once again, there's only one new release out. And I have a feeling it's going to be this way, either 0, 1, or 2, probably through November.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to, unless you already had something in the pipeline, this is not really like your strike when the iron is hot thing. Unless you're
GTA.
Title, yeah, exactly. A canned title that's a big name thing that will carry this console to the end of its life cycle.
Right.
Which is kind of why we're back on playing Borderlands. It's like, I've got $20 worth of DLC that I bought that I have never touched. And hopefully that'll help me inch closer to November without being like, oh my God, I need the fucking new console. This is bullshit.
Well, that's why I'm loving this Steam sale, man. Like I got Torchlight 2.
I
got Torchlight 2 yesterday for like $5. I don't remember. And Firefall came out, and it's a free to play downloadable game. I play in that. I mean, it's nice to kind of at least now I do my back cataloging of the things that I should have bought that game, in January or whatever. I'm buying the games now and I'm playing them now. So it is a nice lull, but it's also summer. So, I'm not really sitting in the house as much. And
oh, bullshit, you aren't.
Believe it, I'm not. It's weird. I don't like it. But I am. I'm actually seeing other human beings and doing stuff.
This is a first for you.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not healthy.
So
it's not healthy. I need to stay back in the dungeon and just be on the gaming. That's my new thing.
Get in your cave.
Yeah, it's my summer. It's my summer resolution is to make sure I pull myself out of society come November. So I'm ready. I got the Cheetos, a blanket. I'm just gonna shit my pants whenever I'm sitting at the computer. I don't need to get up. There's no reason.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. No.
All right. Well, the first and only new release out this week, Jay, is a multi-platform release, and it is Dynasty Warriors 8. And this is out for the 360 and the PS3. This is the 8th game in the popular Dynasty Warriors series. And it's, for those of you unfamiliar, it's a hack and slash beat 'em up game. It's really a pinnacle of the example of this sort of game. It is literally, that's all you do. It's a very niche game. So if that's the niche you're into, then you're good to go. The story picks up where Dynasty Warriors 7 finished off, but it's playable without knowing the history of these games. So you can come in on 8 and be like, oh yeah, I can just play this because it's mindless, dumb, hack and slash beat 'em up. There's lots of graphical improvements and a whole bunch of AI improvements this time because there were some complaints about some sloppy and basically shitty AI in the previous game. So they've addressed those in this game. For the first time in the series, you can also play either online or offline co-op through the story mode, which is nice. So if you want to run around and beat shit up with your buddy, you can actually do that. Rave reviews for this game since it came out in Japan in February, but then again, most of this sort of game gets rave reviews from Japan. So you can't really judge based on that, I don't think. But it's definitely not my style of game. But I would say if you're fans of the genre, which is you just like to mindlessly press buttons and beat shit up, or you're fans of the series and you're really hooked into the Dynasty Warrior series, then this one's definitely for you. But it is not for me.
Yeah, I'm not really I feel like the hack and slash genre for me is just so old hat. It's getting that way with FPSs too, so I can't really complain. But the hack and slash for me, I just don't have time. I don't have time.
Yeah.
You know,
Unless it's got some nice RPG elements to it, and you can
like
you can kind of write it
RPG
off as an
titties are
action
nice.
RPG.
I like RPG
Yes.
titties. Those are always fun to look
Oh,
at.
yeah.
That's
I
about
know
it, though.
You even liked back in the Leisure Suit Larry titties. So.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I learned to
As long as
love.
it's like pink pixels, you were fine.
Exactly. That's all I need.
All right. On that, why don't we hop over into gaming news? First story.
This is a hot one. First story. This is coming out of Joystick, and we talked a little bit about this last week. But apparently, the Xbox One has sold out again for the GameStop pre-orders. The retailers are running short of next gen, which is probably not news. This happens all the time, but still, it kind of goes along with the stuff we were saying about Microsoft switching their DRM because they were worried about sales. But anyway, the Xbox One Day One Edition at GameStop, keep that in mind, Day One Edition at GameStop is currently unavailable after the retailer reopened pre-orders this past weekend. So only a weekend and they're gone. All of the Xbox One Day bundles, including the Battlefield 4, the Forza 5, the Dead Rising 3, Watch Dogs, and Call of Duty Ghosts, are now unavailable for purchase. As of July 12th, GameStop still had Xbox One bundles in stock and open to pre-order, but these retailer stockpiles were dwindling fast. Amazon is also out of Day One editions, but the standard edition is available for pre-order. Xbox One Day One pre-orders will hit Best Buy soon, while Walmart pre-orders are still live. Walmart, Amazon, and Best Buy both have PS4 available for pre-order, though no launch day bundles are available yet. So it's just the PS4 if that's what you want to get. So what do you think? Good signs all around. This is a tricky, muddy water for me. But I mean, do you think Xbox One is proving itself, or is this more marketing ploy than it is actual, reason in fact?
No, I think that they wanted to provide these retailers as many units as possible. Now, GameStop, they're notorious for getting the shitty end of the stick because it's definitely a different distribution chain than if you're going to Microsoft or you're going to Amazon. Microsoft's going to Amazon or going to Best Buy. GameStop is, you've got these billions of little stores. They have their own little convention every year, the GameStop Managers Convention, and GameStop is kind of their enemy, but they need them. It's like working with your enemy to be your friend just for a little while. So I remember during the 360 launch, I had pre-ordered through GameStop and guaranteed launch day, whatever. And I ended up having to camp out because they weren't going to have my console. And they didn't have that particular one for 2 weeks. So the only way I got my launch day one, or actually I got two launch day consoles, was getting one at midnight and then one in the 7 a.m. thing that I camped out for. So this is definitely, GameStop, they're always going to have a smaller quantity of these. Now, as far as Amazon goes, that Day One edition, we ordered it from another press conference at E3. We were sitting in a different press conference waiting for it to start, and we ordered. There's no excuse that somebody that wanted it then couldn't have just jumped online and ordered it. You have to be a complete moron not to have placed your pre-order for this if it's really something you wanted and you wanted the Day One. Now, the fact that the Day One and Day One versions are gone, but they're still selling them pre-order, who knows when they're going to get those? That's going to be a first come, first serve. So you can't really count on when that's coming in. And an update to this story, since I made this outline like 4 hours ago, is now Best Buy has started taking their pre-orders for the Day One edition. So if you don't have one, hop on there now, bestbuy.com, as soon as the show's over, of course, and pre-order your Day One edition. And PlayStation 4, we ordered that very first day also, and who knows what's going to happen with those pre-orders, but I'm assuming we're getting ours the first day. And now that Amazon has kind of grayed out the line between Day One edition, because there's not really a Day One edition of the PS4 that you can order. Who knows when you'll get it? But if either of these are something you're going to want, this is the time this is your last possible chance to get your order in, because eventually these are going to go the way of, check back soon, and they're not even going to have the order button. So get your shit in there, order it up, and join us in November for the fucking awesomeness.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I always think these numbers are, I don't think they're purposely doing it, but they obviously seed a certain amount of these pre-orders for these Day One editions, but there are other editions available. So it reads a little bit, not like they're lying or anything, but yeah, certain editions are out, but you could still get an Xbox One. I mean, it's still there, and hardware is always really hard to get out in the beginning. We all know this. It's not like it's really easy for them to just mass produce, millions of these consoles. They don't know how many they're going to sell, and it's hard for manufacturers to get them out. So this is normal. I don't know if this proves that, they're on the right track or if it proves really anything right now. I don't think we're really going to know until the November hits and we actually see the numbers versus PS4. But it's a good sign. At least they're not available everywhere and no one's buying them. Clearly, people are pre-ordering them. So that is a good sign. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
It's all
Wait and
wait and
see
see.
mentality.
And we did put in a couple weeks ago. We put in our predictions for. I think we did them through April.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think April.
Yeah, so we'll check those next year, but I'm still confident in my predictions.
All right, buddy. We'll see. We will see.
All
All right, next story. Blizzard, believe this or not, is confirming in-game transactions for World of Warcraft. This is via Eurogamer. And this is kind of a big one for them because this is a game that has not had this and also still, mind you, has a subscription model attached to it. Blizzard will add in-game microtransactions to its MMO, World of Warcraft. Community manager Bashiak confirmed the news on Battle.net last night following reports last week that an introduction of the in-game store was imminent. Players were left concerned at the nature of these items Blizzard was testing, including the convenience-based items, such as buffs that will aid in leveling your character. The developer has now confirmed that such items will initially be only available in Asian regions, which is important to understand because their model does not follow the subscription model. For Western gamers, the shop will simply be a more streamlined way to buy extra things like their pets and, they got clothes now that they're going to sell. So if you want to pretty up your dude or, get some in-game pets, that's what that's going to be for. The Western gamer, quote, for players who are already interested in in-game items that we offer, such as these store pets and the mounts, the benefits of an in-game store are pretty clear. We think that everyone would appreciate the convenience of being able to make such purchases without having to leave the game, and that's ultimately the long-term goal for the system. There's quite a bit of work involved in retrofitting these existing items into the new system now. First, we'll be testing the in-game store with some of the new items that we're looking to introduce in Asian regions first, based on player feedback. Specifically, an experience buff to assist with the leveling process, as well as an alternate way to acquire the lesser charms of good fortune, which, if you've been playing the game, they're used to actually get extra gear out of raids and other environments. So that's a direct way to pay money to get gear if you haven't really caught on to that, which is quite interesting. Pay to win. Quote, we've had a lot of requests from players in different regions for these convenience-oriented items such as these. And as with other new ideas we've introduced in WoW, has evolved, which is including the pet store now, the mounts, and of course more of your feedback plays a hugely important part of determining what we add to the game. Ultimately, it is too early in the process to make any final determinations about our plans, but in the meantime, we hope you check out our in-game store once it is implemented on the PTR, which is their player testing realm, and let us know what you think. So do you think this is a mistake for Blizzard? Or is this is a 9-year-old game? They're going to start losing money. This is a cash cow. The company, Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, this is what pays checks. So, what do you think about something like this?
I'm honestly surprised that they didn't pull the trigger all the way here in the U.S. too.
Really?
What did they say in there? It was called the experience something buff. Basically like easy mode, even easier easy mode than the game has already been reduced to.
Right.
So I think people in the U.S. would pay money for that, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's at a weird stage right now because they don't want to. If they go straight pay to win, the player-based reaction in the U.S. because you're paying that sub, and that was the fine point of that print that people don't seem to understand. Asians do not pay a sub. They pay per hour or per whatever. They buy kind of like a time card and then they play the game. So I think in the Asian market, this makes a lot of sense for Blizzard. But if they were to do it here, it could really cause a backfire effect. And I think a lot of people would be like, why am I paying $15 a month? And now you want me to pay $10 to pay to win? That means that the richer obviously get richer, both in the game and out. So it's a tricky selling point at this point. It's really hard for them.
But look at it now. Right now, everybody pays a subscription. So let's say that, you're trying. you've leveled up your best guy. He's fucking playing in arenas. He's doing all that shit, and he just doesn't hold it. And you're like, oh, I wish I had re-rolled way back when. Well, now you can be like, hey, I'll just power level this other guy through for $10 or whatever it's going to cost. And I don't think that people see that one time. Like, how many times did you pay the server change fee?
I don't know. I want to say 3 or 4 maybe total.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you ever do any of the other changes they offered, like the faction change or?
I mean, it all plays a role. I guess the sticking point for me is, I think you're right. I think the experience stuff works well for Western culture. I think all that stuff is fine for Blizzard to do that for Warcraft. But I also think the lesser charm of good fortune that's a hard one to get around, because you're literally buying an item for a store and you still do have to raid to get the gear. You still have to kill the boss, but that gives you an extra opportunity at the gear that the guy that doesn't have money doesn't get. So there is a little bit of weirdness. So
these are
there.
This is like a currency used for rolling on gear.
Yeah. So in the new version, when you go into a raid and a boss dies, you have your one chance at the gear. But then at the same time, if you pull out this token, this lesser form of good, or actually it's the greater, it takes a couple lessers to make it, but you get a second chance at that roll. So you actually roll once, you don't get the gear. The system re-rolls and lets you know, okay, you've used this charm. You did win an item. Do you want to spend this charm and get this item? So if you can buy that, you're not gaming the system or anything, but you definitely have a greater chance to get gear if you have money. And there is
at someone else's loss.
So there is a sticking point there, and I don't know if the Western culture is ready for that on top of a subscription. I think that's a little bit of a stretch there. So I think, and then it makes sense.
Ninja.
It makes sense for the Asian markets because that's how they play their MMOs now. Blizzard's not doing anything different than what is currently in Asian markets, and what they've said going along with this about the loss of subs for the last 5 years, I'd say, since Wrath of the Lich King, is because the Asian market has dwindled. That the North American market really has not fluctuated more or less than anything that they've really seen, but the Asian market has dwindled almost completely because in Asia, free-to-play is the only way. And really, they're competing with millions of games as opposed to like the few that we have here in North America. So it's interesting. It makes total sense to me. I'm not surprised. And I hope we see some of this stuff later on in North America, but who knows? Because I'm lazy enough now where I'll pay the money. I don't give a shit. I'll pay.
Well, the game's only got a limited lifespan left now. It's fucking 9 years old.
It's
what
an
other
old game.
game are people playing that's 9 years old at this point?
Yeah, I'd love to know. If there's another game out there, even anyone in chat can think of a game that's almost a decade old that's played by, 100,000 people. Let me know. Well, I mean, I'm maybe some of the other older MMOs, maybe EverQuest. Do you think EverQuest?
Oh, yeah, there probably are some guys playing like EQ. Or
Yeah, those guys are sad.
They invested so much time back in the day. They're like, I'm never gonna stop.
Yeah,
playing
they're like,
EQ.
this is it, man. There's one game. That's all I got.
I'm gonna
Sad.
die playing EQ
Oh.
if I have to.
God, that's depressing. Wow. So yeah, we'll see.
That's you and WoW, actually.
It is. No, that's why I'm
10
depressed.
years from now, we'll be doing a show, and you'll be like, "Eric, I'm gonna die playing WoW if I have to. I'm gonna die doing it because I love this game.
I
I
don't.
put too much time and money into it.
I bought a lot of lesser charms of good fortune. I need to
I
spend them.
came to power level.
Yeah. It's sad. So on an equally sad point, Angry Birds receives a Skylanders-esque toy twist. This is through Gamasutra. Rovio today revealed the next step for both its studio and its Angry Birds franchise, as it announced Telepods, which is essentially the Skylanders-like toys that can be transported into the game. And it seems like companies are, this is going everywhere, this Telepod shit. We got it with Disney, we got it with everybody. The scannable Angry Birds Star Wars toys and Telepods will be launched on September 19th thanks to a deal with the toy maker Hasbro, along with the new Angry Birds Star Wars 2 game for mobile. There will be a total of 30 different figurines available. Rovio says that the Telepods can be used in conjunction with the mobile game to unlock characters and superpowers within the game, essentially allowing players to choose which characters they want to use on any particular level. So you go to a level, you get your Telepod, you get to pick which bird or whatever you want to use. The company is also working with Hasbro to launch multiple other merchandise lines at the same time, including apparel, accessories, books, and plush toys, because who doesn't want some plush toys? Rovio isn't the only studio on jumping on the success of Skylanders. Obviously, like I just said, Disney revealed its own figurine-based video game earlier this year called Disney's Infinity. So if you haven't checked that out, it's pretty much been everywhere. Go give it a look-see. But what do you think about now Rovio is getting on the action? Is this like a sign that maybe Angry Birds is just jumping the fucking shark like you wouldn't believe? Because it feels that way. Is the one-trick pony, will it ever stop?
See, Code and I talked about this for years, where I felt like Rovio literally was the one-trick pony. This is the only game they had. That's the only skill they had. They know how to make a game where you pull back and throw something in the air and let it hit stuff. And then when they finally re-released that same game 3 or 4 times, then they bought into the Star Wars license. And they were like, okay, well, now we're going to fling Star Wars shit and do that. And, oh, we'll fling it from space. Or it's the same fucking game.
Yeah.
So now seems like more of a desperation attempt. And in this case, it doesn't seem like, at least with Skylanders and with Disney Infinity, you have this physical portal. You're putting this little plastic toy on there. It lights up or it doesn't. It adds stuff to your game. Here, it sounds like you're literally just taking a picture of your fucking tag on the toy and you can bring it in. But who's to say that someone else can't do that? Why can't a whole family of people share a toy? Like,
yeah.
That's the difference with the Skylanders type devices, where they have RFID, they have onboard storage. So you could take, like, for example, the kids here they have Skylanders both on the Xbox 360 and they have it on the 3DS. So you could take whatever Skylander you're using on your portal on the 360, you can take and put him on your 3DS portal, and all his stats and shit carry over because it's stored on the Skylander itself. These stuffed animals, I guarantee you, are not storing any sort of information on them. It's definitely, it's either gonna be cloud based or it's gonna be basically individual. Like, oh, you took a picture of it, now he's in your game, you can use him. It also doesn't seem to be that same sort of play dynamic where you're going to be home, you're going to sit down, you're going to play some Skylanders. You're going to break out your big case that has 40 Skylanders in it. You're going to put them on your portal. You're going to play the game. You're going to swap in a different one when you need him. You're going to swap in another one when you need him. The Angry Birds games are games you play in the car, on the train, on the shitter. These are not games that you're going to be sitting around with all your stuffed animals. You're going to take all your stuffed animals into like a public restroom with you? I don't think so. This is, it seems like the right kind of move, but by the wrong company in the wrong way. Right.
I mean, I don't know. I 100% agree, just because I think this thing is like lived its day. I don't know how the marketing has caught on like it has, because a lot of their money is coming from the accessories that they sell, which I think is just fucking bizarre. I think the whole thing is bizarre.
Oh, they sell pajamas and clothes.
Oh,
and that's fine. You want to sell clothes and shit that's based on your thing? That's fine. And make your money that way. I have no problem with that. You want to sell, I need 20 different stuffed animals 30 different stuffed animals, they said, to buy and take around. You're not going to take 30 stuffed animals with you into a public restroom so that you can individually, load up your guy that you want to use at that particular time. It's just not going to happen. That's not how people play Angry Birds.
Right.
It is a 2-minute shitter game. It is not a sit down for an hour in front of a console and play through what amounts to Skylanders is an RPG essentially.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's an entirely different kind of game.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan.
The chat room saying that you could go into a family restroom and do it, but that's pretty much idiotic.
That's pretty idiotic.
No offense, chat.
That's why I love chat room. The idiocy is
it's like having your own bunch of idiots with you. Like, that sounds awesome.
Oh, Christ. And for more idiocy, let's go into the what the fuck story segue. All right, so here comes the idiocy, and from who other than our own government. This week's what the fuck story comes from Polygon. It is a report that the CDC is closer to beginning research on gun violence and video games. Yes, we're finally going to actually see if kids want to shoot other kids because of Grand Theft Auto. An extensive and exclusive report over at Polygon reveals that the Center of Disease Control and Prevention are getting closer to pursuing the Obama administration's to study the correlation between violent media, which is all media, so not just video games, but music, movies, television, and video games, and gun violence. The president called for more research in January of this year after, obviously, the aftermath of the Sandy Hook elementary school shooting that was in Connecticut. So everyone remembers that. Terrible, terrible thing. But now we're actually going to get into the quick and dirty of it and see if it was because of Grand Theft Auto or because of his Metallica or possibly because he's watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Who knows? Sources close to the situation have told Polygon that the agency is in the midst of reviewing a new report and research questions created by the Institute of Medicine. Part of the report calls for focusing on firearm violence as an outcome of consuming violent media. Should the research be approved for funding by Congress, it would take 3 to 5 years to actually conduct. The priorities to reduce the threat of firearm-related violence, that is a quote, report acknowledges that there is plenty of research on the effects of violent media, but none that ties gun violence to the question. So that's the point of this deal. The proposed agenda being reviewed would break down the research into multiple categories, including tracking gun violence, identifying risk factors, firearm violence prevention, examining new gun safety technology, and the influences of video games and other media. Oddly enough, the report does not call on the examination of mental health issues that is related to gun violence, which you think would be a pretty important fucking factor. Why are you actually shooting these people? In more than 50 years of research, no study has focused on firearm violence as a specific outcome of violence in media, notes the report. As a result, a direct relationship between violence in the media and real-life firearm violence has not been established and will require additional research. So, Derek...
Surprise, surprise.
What do you think so far? I mean, what do you think?
Jay, this story is full bore what the fuck.
Right.
It's almost like government trying to justify the conclusion that they already came to years ago. So now you're saying, okay, we already decided that violent video games and movies and remember back in the Tipper Gore days with the explicit label?
Hell yeah.
When we were kids,
we lived that shit.
You know, we did not have the explicit label on CDs. We could listen to, Two Live Crew and shit, and it didn't have that label at first. And then Tipper Gore came in. She was like, "Oh, these guys need to know there's explicit lyrics here."
She was just
bored.
bored.
This podcast is marked explicit in iTunes. Without that, we would never get to this point. You would just be able to swear and say cunt, penis, and vag face and ass clit.
Ass clit.
Without anybody questioning you. But now, because that happened before, is where we're at today. And taking that to the next level with violence, you cannot tie one to the other. I grew up, I watched plenty of violent movies. I played plenty of violent video games well into my formative years, and I've never killed anyone.
Maybe you're a ticking time. Maybe both of us are ticking time bombs, right? We don't know. We've consumed all this violent media. There's a rage
that's why there's
building.
No land this year. We're both gonna rampage.
We're gonna kill some random people. I mean, like, seriously, for the government to spend money on this is a little ridiculous, and that's saying it nicely. I just hate knowing that taxpaying dollars are actually going to something like this. That's, write your congressman, write anyone. Tell them stop this bullshit. The fact that the one piece in that puzzle that had me fuming was that, what about the correlation to mental health? What about the things that we turn a blind eye to, that people are depressed and they hate their job and they fucking hate their wife or they don't have a wife, whatever. All these reasons that they're social outcasts, right? And that's why they want to pick up a gun.
After the fact.
That's like the last thing that they talk about. Oh, and by the way, after he was playing Grand Theft Auto and all these other things, it also turns out he had no friends. He had no social circle. His parents were shitty. Come on, guys. Like, we're spending money on this shit. It's like, I don't know. Being a socially well-adjusted person is probably paramount to your level of ability to shoot other people. But for some reason, that's falling really low on the matters scale. It's like, game violence.
Something to be able to blame, to tie something to. People are always looking for a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to say, you know what, maybe this guy, every year from when he was 12 till he turned 40, he, strangled and drowned a bunny rabbit.
Right.
And, but you know what? He really didn't go kill people until he played Grand Theft Auto. No, like, this guy is what they call a ticking time bomb. He is just he's building up, and eventually, after you kill enough bunnies, it's not enough. And maybe it happened to be after he played Grand Theft Auto. Maybe it was before he ever played a violent video game. Maybe it was after he watched Terminator. Maybe it was after he watched The Sound of Music, and it just drove him fucking nuts. It doesn't matter. You cannot tie one to the other. There are just a certain subset of society that are massively fucked up. These people are fucking mental degenerates. Their brains do not work like ours. They do not see the fine line between right and wrong, good and evil,
or reality.
Yeah, exactly. These are the people where this happens. This is not no sensible person. No one that is well-adjusted, has friends, goes to a good 4-year college. You don't hear about these people full of friends that are out there killing people. That is not who this is rampaging. It is your loners. It's your guys that don't have any friends. It's your guys that have just gone through a massive, personal trauma, whether it's a death of a relative or, a breakup of a relationship or something where they just could not handle that. But it's never somebody that's well-adjusted. People are just looking for something to tie it to so that they don't have to worry about their neighbor being that guy.
Right.
They're like, oh, well, Joe next door, he doesn't play video games. He's like me. But really, it could be anybody as long as you have that mental problem and it has nothing to do with what you watch or consume or play.
And that's what infuriates me. If we would spend time worrying about mental health in this country, we don't. We and I understand people don't. Mental health is a really tough subject for people. I get that, right? I mean, people don't want to have poor mental health. We talk about the people that come back from Iraq. They have poor mental health. We do nothing to help them. We wonder why they're depressed. Maybe they're fucking depressed because they were being shot at for 10 months or they watched their friend die. Maybe that's why. Call of Duty's not making them depressed, guys. They just were in a shitty situation. So, I see stuff like this and it's like the fact that no one is paying attention to the mental health factor, which is it's the factor.
It's the primary thing.
It's ridiculous. I mean, this is the biggest what the fuck story that I think we've ever had on the show because it's like turning a blind eye to the actual, problem and just trying to find other reasons to slip in there to I guess explain away. People want to know, why did he do it? Why did he do it? Why? Had to be a reason why. Maybe because he's a crazy fucker. Maybe that's why. Maybe he's just fucking crazy. And sometimes crazy people shoot people. There is no explanation. I know people want to sleep safe at night, but sometimes really bad shit happens. People lose their fucking minds. It's craziness.
Back in the day, that was the scientific answer. When our parents were kids.
Exactly.
Yes. And some people were just, that guy's fucking crazy. That's why he killed someone. And then, people profiled back then. There was a lot of different things.
Yeah, but
was called good detective work. Now, everybody's got to be PC, which is why we got to blame something.
Makes me sick. Makes me sick.
That is so what the fuck.
All right.
Well, on that, why don't we go to the sensible mailbag and voicemails where we have Altius. And Altius asks, after hearing some of your insight last week on my question as to what Microsoft and Sony will come up with as Phase 2 features pre-launch, you guys have me thinking. What feature do you think either or both Microsoft or Sony thinks is important to consumers, but that we could really care less about?
Ooh.
This is a great question because so often console makers, they do this every time. They're like, oh, people are going to love this. And nobody wants that thing, but they spend so much time and effort and cycles on it. I think from Sony's side, I'll start there so you have time to think. I don't think that people want a camera. I think people want a camera in conjunction with what Kinect does. And it's one thing to have a camera. If you remember the PlayStation Eye and they had these games where you put down these collectible cards and you shine the eye down on them and it played the card in the game. I don't think that's a game mechanic that people are really interested in. I don't think that people want to pick up their camera and use it as a scanner, if you will. I don't think that's a gameplay mechanic that people want. Yet Sony continuously works on this and they pitch it as a viable option. People want to just mount that camera and forget about it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, for me with Sony, it's probably and this isn't, I don't know if this is Sony's fault, but it's that they're hitching their post to the streaming thing. But so this is kind of a two-parter, but it's like, so they're doing the streaming thing, but I feel like they're just not doing it right. Like to not have it be Twitch built in, like they're really excited about it, but I feel like gamers are kind of like, oh, well, I just use Twitch. Like I don't.
Yeah, do use
Yeah.
Twitch or pen some deal with YouTube and do the YouTube
Sure,
fucking.
but aren't they
whatever
doing like
call
they're
that
doing like
live thing.
UStream, right?
Yeah, or do you do something that someone uses besides?
Do people use
the-
UStream? Does anyone know in chat if I think they're using? I think Sony is using UStream, but I still don't
No,
feel that's
Sony is using their own
shit?
Their Sony PSN thing. Yeah,
I don't know
not
that that's,
even unless it's a UStream derivative.
Oh.
It's their own because originally they said any other PlayStation Network user will be able to watch the stream, and then they kind of backpedaled and said, "Oh, anyone on the internet will be able to view these." But I don't know.
I don't know.
So-
I mean, to me that's like
Man says they're using UStream.
oh they are. Yeah, I'm looking now too. PSU uses UStream. Yeah, so I don't know. For me, it's just like they're using it. No one does. People watch video. Everyone watches video games on Twitch now. That's just the way it's been. That's why we're doing it. So it's one of those feature sets where it's like I don't know. Yay, but I don't think that Sony's going to be the one to like rejuvenate UStream. I don't know. But
All of a sudden, if you
a
got
good feature.
a couple million people broadcasting on it, well, that's one thing. But
hey, it's
you-
props
a
to
couple million
UStream for
people-
fucking doing that shit. They're getting a. I don't know.
If people are broadcasting, that's one thing. But you need people viewing it to make it profitable for UStream.
Right.
It's the advertising where the profitability comes for the streaming company. If 40 million people are streaming on their PlayStation 4 to Ustream and nobody's fucking watching it, well, then you
Yeah.
have a revenue issue where that's a lot of bandwidth for nothing.
Yeah, that's very true. So yeah, for me, that's it with them. I mean, they were really psyched about the feature. I could see why. I don't think it's a bad feature. Like I said, it's one of those features that I think. I'm not saying gamers were like, oh, whatever, but I think gamers were like, oh, streaming on the PS4 with Ustream? What the fuck? Okay. So I don't know. But what do you think about Microsoft? Do you think there's something that they're super hard on about, but isn't a big deal?
Microsoft has made these mistakes before. I remember when they first did the avatars
Yeah, people are like, meh.
for the 360, and they thought that everybody wanted those, and nobody did. And eventually, they kind of changed it around so they weren't as cartoony as the
The Wii?
the Nintendo ones. Yeah, so they made them more realistic body shapes and proportions. And I remember you had to re-download. Like I have a Patriots jersey for my guy, and I had to re-download it because he was no longer like this guy that was one half top and one half bottom, and his legs were as long as his top. And it was exactly the Nintendo way, except you didn't look like a weeble.
Right.
So I don't think that people were looking for that. It's sometimes people get used to things and they use them even though they never wanted them. Like I don't need what's the little gamer pictures?
Yeah, right. Profile pics. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care what's there. I'll use a picture of me and be done with it. Or I'll take a picture of my fucking avatar and put him there. Like I don't need to let people know that I like Doritos. I don't
Right.
need Jack Black from Lucha Libre. Like I don't need these things. Like it's a market that got created that nobody wanted that now we use because Microsoft thought we did. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to do something with the Xbox One that we all feel the same way about. It's just really hard to speculate what
Well-
it is because it's just so fucking outlandish.
Well, gamers, I will say, I mean, people probably disagree with me. I don't agree with gamers in this particular case, but a lot of gamers were pissed that they focused on TV, right? That was the whole thing. Like, oh, we didn't even want it. I disagree because I actually am in it for the TV, but I'm maybe a
I'm a
minority.
big fan too.
Yeah, so we're kind of it's a weird conversation just because both me and Derek want the TV stuff. But to be fair to that question you asked, several gamers, the majority of them, after that initial sneak preview press conference before E3, were like, "Oh, I don't really fucking care about TV." Like they were like, "That's not a feature. We never asked for TV," and this is true. This is a fact. I mean, like gamers weren't pining over TV. We weren't all like, "Oh, I can't wait till the next Gears of War, and I really want cable on my box." Like that was not a conversation gamers were having. So it's one of those things where Microsoft, it's a part of their big plan. They don't, we don't necessarily want it, but now that they're in the living room and they're giving it to you, you're like, oh, yeah, thanks for the free TV, I guess. I don't know.
See, I think the mistake that people make with that is they say, Microsoft is providing me TV. No, Microsoft is just making it easier for
Right.
you to switch back and forth between TV and gaming, which is, you got to admit, it's a hassle. Sometimes you're watching TV and you're like, well, I could switch over to the Xbox and do it. And that's your gate some nights. It shouldn't be a gate, but it is for all of us. There's some point we've all said, you know what, I'm already watching TV. I don't need to switch over. It's just I switch inputs, I get the controller. But if your whole experience is you can say, Xbox, play a game, Xbox, come back to TV. It takes that barrier of entry out of it. Or you're playing a game and you're done and you just want to watch a little TV, or you want to just take a break. It really is a time saver. They're not providing you TV. You still need TV. It's just making it a fuckload of a lot easier.
Yeah, it's just wrapping up your. I mean, a lot of people in chat are saying right now, like, what do you have to get up and hit the input button, or Blue Steel saying the Xbox One isn't going to make him change his cable stations any faster than his current cable box. All those things are true. I don't think that's disputable.
It depends if it has serial input.
But the difference is,
or it uses the HDMI.
The difference is it's all in one place. I mean, yes, it won't change your cable stations faster, but the idea is you're going in between medias, not that one cable box. So yes, going from channel 2 to channel 3 will not be any different for you. It should be the same. But if you're going from channel 3 to Halo, or if you're going from Halo to Netflix or whatever, that's the idea of that sort of one box thing. I don't know that consumers needed it. I don't know that the service was a requirement for anybody, but I don't think that's the point. It's a feature set that they're just trying to say, hey, you never have to leave your Xbox One. It's a smart move for them because it means you're always on a Microsoft product. You're in your living room, you're turning something on. When you hit power, it is a Microsoft product. Doesn't matter what cable box, doesn't matter if it's your VCR, because if you have one, you really should stop using a VCR. What the fuck is wrong with you? If it's your Blu-ray player, whatever, it's just one unit. And that's a good thing. I mean, I don't think gamers really were clamoring for it, but now that it's here, it's one of those features where it's like, yay. Good.
It's a nice value add.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
All right. Well, if any of you have something to say like Altius, give us a call, 773-527-2961. Fire us off an email, podcast@tooledtoplay.com. You can also comment on this episode on the Tool to Play homepage. There's a news story they'll say, still got game episode 6. Just leave us a comment there. Sponsors, remember, fuck that. We need sponsors.
I love it.
Pay us money. We'll sponsor. We'll fucking spew out shit about your product. You just tell us what you want us to say, and we'll say it. We'll take your money, and we'll say whatever you want. So if you have something to sell, we'll sell it for you. 773-527-2961. Podcast@tooledtoplay.com. You pay us, we'll sell it. Boom, done. Now, before we move on to the end of the show here, we haven't got a correct response for this week's giveaway, so I'm going to give you one more chance to listen to this bit. Once again, I will even narrow this down further. The song that we're looking for the name of the show this is from Cinemax, and it definitely comes on after 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So here's your brief snippet. You have till the end of the show to answer.
And losing my mind, what the hell does she care? She's never ever.
All right, that's all you get.
It's good stuff.
Just the tip, a little taste. All right. Twitter us up. You can find everything Tool to Play related at twitter.com/tool-to-play. Everything podcast related is at twitter.com/still_got_game. I, king of the internet, got of everything that's holy at twitter.com/Derek Nolan.
You can find me at twitter.com/dudeIrock.
All right, Facebook the fuck out of us. Facebook.com/tool-to-play. Facebook.com/Derek Nolan.
Facebook.com/dudeIrock.
All right, please rate and review the podcast in iTunes. Give us 5 stars. Tell people we're awesome. We save your lives. We're good. You jerk off to the podcast, maybe. We really don't want to know that, but it goes to show you really like us.
That's true.
That's one thing. Yeah, you don't have to come to the land, but you can tell people you do that. Now, you play with a little critique to the podcast. That's a different thing altogether. We're big fans of that, right, Jay?
Wow. No.
I said right, Jay?
No. Right, Derek, right.
That's what I thought. That's what I hear from the comments, the ones I can't even use in the show because they're so raunchy that chicks dig doing that.
Wow.
Wow. All right. You can join us each and every week, Monday nights live, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, twitch.tv/tool-to-play. And once again, each week we will be giving something out. Looking through the chat room here, nobody guessed the contest this week, so I will tell you exactly what it is. It is from Coed Confidential on Cinemax After Dark, I guess it is. Yeah, Skinemax, if you will. And that song is Never Better. It is or Better Than Me. I never better than me. By the other half, which was a LA band that is no longer in existence, but they somehow bought that song to use on their show when it was cheap and the band was going out of business, and they've gained great fame since breaking up. So next week, the question will be more gaming related, and hopefully someone will get it. But we do have shitloads of stuff to give away. You just have to be smart and not a complete idiot.
Yeah, that's tough for everyone that listens to our show.
Especially the people here in chat.
Mwah, the stupid
it's
is
like
good.
the lowest common denominator of society.
I love it. Love it.
They're like lovable retards.
Yes, they are. Especially LB.
All right.
Love it.
On that, why don't we wrap this this episode up? I am Derek D. Smooth Nolan.
And I am Joel Dude I Rock Albert.
Here's to the lovable retards.
Aww.